Welcome everyone to another Seating Dynamics quick class. Today we'll be discussing what is dynamic seating. We're going to actually dig in and define this exciting area of technology. My name is Michelle Lange. Thanks for joining us today. So dynamic seating has been officially defined through two different processes. Initially, a dynamic seating international work group through a series of meetings drafted out a working definition. It's important with any technology to define it accurately and distinguish it from similar technologies or other technologies that just happen to use some of the same wording. Then a resonant position paper was drafted and approved and published that contains the following formal definition. Dynamic seating is movement which occurs within the seating system and or the wheelchair frame in response to intentional or unintentional force generated by the client. Those dynamic components absorb client forces and return energy to assist the client back to a starting position. So basically, the client moves with force and the system moves in response. That energy is stored and helps the client get back to that neutral starting position. Now, dynamic seating has sometimes been defined in other ways, referring to other technologies or processes, so it is important to be clear. Movement can be provided in several different areas. Movement which occurs within the seating system or wheelchair frame at the hips is called a dynamic back, and you can see this animation illustrating that movement here. Movement can also occur at the legs, and this can include both knee extension as well as a telescoping motion. Often the two are combined in order to mimic the natural arcing movement of the knee, and this is a dynamic footrest. Movement also can occur at the head, and this is called dynamic head support hardware. And it can be designed in different ways to capture both neck extension as well as rotation. Many clients, when they extend at the neck, also show some rotation. And it's important that that movement can be captured. Dynamic seating responds to intentional or non-intentional or unintentional force. So on the left here, we have a young lady who is intentionally seeking out sensory input by rocking. On the right, we have a young lady who, when she extends or her dystonia is active, she activates the dynamic components on her seating system. Now, she can sometimes elicit these movement patterns intentionally, but most of this is unintentional. Dynamic components absorb that force and return energy to assist the client to a starting position. And this is very important. It's one thing to allow something on a wheelchair to move, but can it resume its position? And importantly, without a loss of position, which we'll talk about in a minute. The dynamic component may be an elastomer, it might be a spring, it can be a hydraulic, but in any case, force from the client compresses that component, which absorbs the force, and it stores this as energy. We have to kind of think back to those old physics classes in high school, right? And then that stored energy assists the client back to an upright position as those forces are reduced as the client relaxes. Another key design feature is making sure this happens without a loss of client position. We know from other technologies, such as manual reclines in wheelchairs, that there can be a bit of shear force, and that can lead to the client sliding out of position. So if someone has reclined rearward and now is coming forward again, there can be movement of the pelvis into a posterior pelvic tilt, for example. So dynamic components are designed to absorb client forces and return that energy to get the client back to a starting position, but without a loss of position. And the key here, one of the key design elements is pivot points. Here you can see this little red arrow, and the pivot point of the dynamic back component is at the same level as the hip joint. So that allows the client to extend into the dynamic back, return to upright, but not slide forward into a posterior pelvic tilt. So that is a quick class on just what is dynamic seating. We have a number of these classes. I would encourage you to check them out as well as other resources on the Seating Dynamics website. If you have any questions, comments, you want to discuss any of this or discuss a particular client scenario, we're very happy to do so. Feel free to reach out to Seeing Dynamics or to me directly. Thanks so much.